Welcome everybody to the 13th Chief Delegate meeting on the 14th of January. We have a very loose agenda today. We will touch on various projects like we always do, kind of what's going on in the ecosystem, what's happened, kind of give our thoughts to all of that stuff, and just kind of organically see where the conversation goes. So maybe we kick off with project stuff to get that out of the way. That's one of the most recurring and structured things that we've come up with. John, you want to start? You're on the top left of my screen.
Sure. Yeah, just been working with the Clarion team and sort of mapping out the future of Violet Garden and what that's going to look like in the new projects being built with Clarion. So still figuring out what exactly that's going to look like and things like that. But yeah, I've been working hard at that. I think that's it.
Cool. Do you have any sense as to what that means for like resources going to Violet Garden? Like, is that, I don't know, we have, the reason I ask is because like Eden's funding that, there's Pomelo, which is coming together and is going to fund that. And now it's like, you're part of that team and I don't know how all of that plays together. And I understand you might not either yet, but I'm just curious if there's any thoughts there.
Yeah, I'm still working that out. I'm going to a few people and asking for feedback and, you know, any sort of ideas on what they think is best on how that all sort of plays together. I've definitely, you know, sunk like personal funds, you know, into it. So, I'll, you know, some definitely been decisions, you know, with the thought that the Pomelo, you know, money will, you know, come through and sort of do things here and there. So yeah, I don't know, but it's definitely quite a unique position. So I'm being, trying to navigate these waters carefully. But yeah, I'll reach out to each of you guys as well and get your feedback on your counsel.
Awesome. Cool. I'm in the middle, so I'm just kind of going left to right on my screen, and this may not make sense to the recording, but as the chair, that's the order I'm going in. So I, once again, don't have a ton of updates. I have started pushing resources back into the account creation stuff, the papers themselves. There is so much content that has been created on that side that now we kind of need to reduce the number of cooks in the kitchen to assemble everything into one draft. The papers that I'm on are probably going to be the later released ones, or towards the end of whatever the release cycle looks like, which we're still figuring out. There's so many different ways to go with this train of thought. But I guess the point of all of that was that we're starting to make progress again on gray mass projects, and I'm hopeful that maybe in the next couple weeks, I'll be able to share those SDKs, and I'll look towards you, John, again. I know I mentioned this a while back as a potential beta tester for integration, just to get another developer's thought. And obviously anybody that's watching this is welcome to reach out to me if they have interest in that. But after that point, we'll push it out further, we'll announce it, and hopefully everybody will be able to start using that and doing account creation from within their own apps. It'll only go through Anchor at this point. That's kind of a hard bottleneck, but hopefully some of the proposals coming out in the papers that I always get lost in will present solutions that make it so you don't need Anchor. I mean, I'm not here to make my products the exclusive products of these networks. It's just, that's the easiest way to accomplish things sometimes. So broader goal is accessible for anyone with whatever products they want to use. Like that should be our ethos as a community. Give people choice. So that's pretty much my update. Chris, you're next on my screen.
Cool. Let's see. I did make some progress on the transparency bit as far as sort of vote distribution across the network and looking at it historically through time. So that's ongoing. And so what'll happen is it's an existing tool. It's just getting refined slightly to show more snapshots to give it a better picture telling ability, essentially. And then I'll kind of try to put it together in a more formal post to just show it. It's this information. I just think it's important to know about. There's another project ongoing that I think I might end up donating some of my funding to. I can't speak much about the project yet, but it's also in the same vein. It fits right in this. I think it'll be very interesting to a lot of people in our ecosystem, and maybe even just other ecosystems. It's the year of, if it's the year of the DAO, with maybe the year of consensus mechanisms. It's kind of tied to DAOs, right? How do we come to consensus? That's a big fundamental aspect of what a DAO tries to do. So it's interesting. I think there's a couple of cool projects that I think will help shine lights on how DPoS works. And it's not all bad. Like, I know it's good and bad. Like it's agnostic. It's just about understanding. Like, for me, and especially for those who don't quite take the time to really dig into what's going on, it's very hard to have a sense of how exactly it works. So this will go towards that.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's it.
Cool. And I agree with you. You just said, like, as a BP operating in DPoS, like, there's a lot of information that I literally have no idea how it's working. So bringing that information is welcome from that point of view as well, just for a better understanding of how these systems work together. So cool. Jesse, you are next on my screen.
Hey everyone. So we are working at the bees. So I can give an update on the global hive. So the other hives are going to come out with all their work items at the end of the period. The global hive, we're really pushing influencer research right now. So I am giving a bounty for our bees to go out and engage influencers and to get quotes from them, prices from them. How much is it to tweet, retweet, a YouTube video, interview, that type of stuff. If they get the information, send a screenshot with the influencer, they'll get a bounty reward. So I would like to spend all of my global hive. We have around 150 EOS for this period to spend. I'm looking to spend most of that on influencer research. I'm also paid so we have some hives that are like under construction. There's just one person there that's trying to get it going. So we have our Hebrew hive, a friend of Ami, who I met and interviewed with, great guy. He translated the beginner's guide into Hebrew. And then we have our Hindi hive, who translated the beginner's guide into Hindi. So yeah, that's that. I met with Randall last weekend. We are trying to come up with a system to help with referrals on EOS. We talked about that on the last call. We're still trying to work through that. So that's been great to talk to him. Yeah, so we got our, well, we'll save that for the next portion, but also just want to thank Pomelo. They came out with the final tally, and that's going to help us greatly to better incentivize our bees to do marketing work.
Awesome. You were talking about influencers, and were you on the fireside chat on Wednesday?
Yes.
There was talk of collecting people who do content based on EOS and EOS.io, and a couple people shared YouTube channel links, and I went and I subscribed to a bunch of them, but like I literally have no idea what the various channels out there are. So if there's like a collection of influencers going on, it would also, like, if you bump into, oh, here's a YouTube channel that actually, like, a content creator that does content that's relevant to our ecosystem, like, that might be worth just like keeping a list of as well, because I don't think that exists. And I'm interested. Like, my YouTube feed is full of video games right now, but I wouldn't mind it also having some like community content in it as well. If it's like before bed and I want to like chill and watch a couple videos on YouTube or something, like why not put some YouTube videos in there? I just don't know where to go. So with a swarm of bees, you might be able to find those pretty efficiently.
Yeah, I think we know them. I do agree there's not a great list out there that lists all like the EOS influencers. But yeah, we could put that together. There's not that many, unfortunately. Like
Yeah.
Some of the best ones have left. But there's probably like there's a handful still here. And I know that I do remember that we went over it on the open mic. And but what I'm more referring to is reaching out to crypto influencers that don't already talk about EOS.
Yep. Those are valuable too. So you had just mentioned influencers, and I was like, we have some, but we need more, and we need to identify the ones we have, you know. Like Felix was a good example. I remember he did that video where he traveled around the country, and during that time he was like asking me questions about Anchor, and so I was kind of engaged with him, and then I watched that video, but then I forgot all about him doing videos, and I was like, oh, I should have subscribed to him back then. But yeah, I don't know, I'm just pitching ideas right now. My brain's in idea pitching mode. So
yeah, I miss EOS Radio
yeah,
mostly.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have some additional media to consume. Maybe that's more structured than us even. So,
low bar.
Cool. Right. Lovejoy, you are on my screen next.
Cool. And yeah, just on that previous topic, I think all the more reason to highlight the people that are still producing EOS content, keep them around, make them know that they're appreciated.
Yeah.
And throw some love their way. So I second the motion for doing a list of some sort. I'll keep it pretty brief. It's been a whirlwind of a week for me. And then I just got sick, so I'm kind of half brain dead right now. Predominantly, my days have been consumed by kind of getting up to speed with the sort of very ambitious set of goals that we have the ENF for putting out content, and trying to keep up with all this blue paper business and all that stuff. So I haven't been too focused on Eden, apart from some brainstorming ways to deploy the rest of my budget for the foreseeable. So yeah, I don't have a lot to add right now. Like I said, my brain is only partially functional today. So
understandable.
Yeah, I'd like to, I'll dive back in once I get oriented. I feel like I've switched roles like 8 times this year, and it's starting to take its toll. Probably why I done and got sick. But yeah,
makes
more
sense.
to come.
I think since we've all started this, things have changed multiple times, and it's been quite the roller coaster to be a part of all of this for the past 4 months, which feels like about a year. So
yeah, if anyone has a good crypto time conversion that they want to hazard a guess for, I'm super interested in that idea. Like a year of crypto time equals how many years of actual life?
Right.
So I think it's quite a multiplier, but we'll save that for later.
2.5.
3.5?
No, 2.5.
2.5. All right, it's respectable.
Start there.
All right.
All right. And last but not least, Randall, I've got you on the bottom right.
Hey, hello everyone. I hope everyone is doing good. Brandon, hopefully you get better quickly. So basically for your support, we have been talking to people in the community, trying to find out what the community wants in terms of ideas that we can basically do to help the community. And also we've been interacting with some of the developers in the community, because there was an exchange that was having maintenance issues. So that was something that we were also following up on closely. I've been able to talk to Luca, and we are working on something to see if we can use his technology in the future for onboarding people into EU support and other projects that we are working on. I was able to also have a talk with Jesse, but I think I will leave it up to Jesse to talk about it in due time when he's ready to talk about the initiative with supporting the bees. And we are building. Our platform is coming up very well. We are trying to add a voting system on chain, and also have the ability to incentivize users when they come on support, and just you vote. We just give you little something for voting and interacting with the platform. So that's something that we're working on now. So far so good. Things are coming along. Otherwise, there's not like anything major. So that's about it.
Cool. Looking forward to seeing how that evolves, whatever that may be. So I know on my end, I've been back and forth a couple times with like people like Dario, trying to help fill in some gaps in information and make sure people are getting the support they need. So I know you guys have probably taken some of our team's workload, and that, as always, is appreciated. So we have a new guy coming on board that I'll probably have to introduce you guys to at some point, to be another point of contact as opposed to always just me. So should be a good year. We'll see where that goes. Cool. Well, before we move on to any other topics, was there, I guess, anything anybody wanted to add to any of that?
Yeah, I wanted to share one more thing.
Sure.
I'm going to, can I share my screen?
Yeah, I don't think I'm the host.
Yeah,
One
look,
second.
Screen share?
I'm on it.
Cool. We've got IT assisting you in real time.
That's right.
Oh, there we go.
all right, so this is on IPFS. So if it's not
So it's
loaded
gonna
in the
take a
next,
second.
like, here we go. So this is, I wanted to highlight this from the Korean Hive. In terms of just content, a
Cute.
really cool piece of content is coming out of the Korean Hive. I had her, so this is from a worker bee in the Korean Hive. I had her translate into English. So she's doing a comic about like this bee character mascot that she made, and like educating about EOS. And so this is like the first version, or like the first, I guess, episode of the comic. So like the bee gets honey, and the honey like makes you really strong, but then this duck comes around, and the dog poops out EOS coins, and then the duck comes around and eats the special honey. Yeah, here we go. And then and the honey like makes you stronger, and the duck just like gets like jacked. The duck's eating, or oh yeah, what the hell? So the duck's like a monster now, and so apparently the honey is like gonna be something about like EOS, how like you're gonna get so much stronger if you use EOS or something. But the it's just cool content. Like we don't have like much content like this, so I just wanted to show it.
Does the shitting of the EOS coins come after you, honey, or is that just...
That was before. It's all going to come together. I asked them, like, do you have a plan for this? Like, yes, we have a plan. This is all going to come together. Multiple episodes. So it's stuff like this. Like when I see like stuff like this, I'm willing to give that hive an extra allocation if they can show me stuff like this, like that I like, or that the community likes, hopefully. And so I just thought that was cool to share.
Yeah.
We should just devote funding towards this.
Right?
This is where the values are.
So apparently in so this worker bee in the Korean hive, she lives in Korea, but she's British or something. And when she got to Korea, she was very not surprised, but just noticed that everything has a mascot. Everything in Korea, like the bus has a mascot, like the family tree has a mascot. And so, but everything's like very like cutesy and funny. And so she's really focused on making like cute, funny content.
It's awesome.
Yo.
It looked good. I mean, it looked well drawn, and like it had art flair to it. Like
It went from adorable to pretty gruesome towards the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah, right.
right?
It's
awesome.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's pretty damn interesting.
Awesome. Yeah.
Overall,
I mean,
I'd love to see more art in EOS. I think communities supporting art of all sorts would be a huge win for the community. It's like, it's kind of this thing that tends to get overlooked, but it's what drives people's, like, it's what drives mind share, you know? It's not like
Art and stories.
art and stories. Yeah. I mean, because you could talk about transactions for a second until you're blue in the face. No one gives a shit. But you have a cute mascot, and everyone's like, I can't wait for the next episode. You know, it's a whole different game.
Are you going to make NFTs out of that, Jesse, with the comic or something?
Yeah. So the idea is the comic gets popular, people start liking the comic, and then you do NFTs once you build that like fan base.
Could it be a thing where like each page of the comic is like an NFT? So there's like 7 NFTs, and then you gotta like collect them or something. I don't know.
It could be, yeah. It's kind of up to the Korean hive. I will certainly report as I learn more.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
awesome. No, that's cool. I mean, and rarely do we get anything as visual as that when we're when we're on calls like this. You know, like we might get some web product or something a lot more dry, but yeah, having something fun like that, there's definitely a lot of good that could come from it. And NFTs was the first place my brain went to. I was like, oh, are those characters going to be them? Like, I'm not super involved in NFTs, but that was my first thought. So
yeah, it would
awesome.
It would make a lot of sense for the Korean hive to raise funds just for their hive.
Yeah.
Through NFTs.
Yeah.
They should do that. I think they will.
Awesome. Cool. We had a couple other topics to jump on as we were talking, or that we talked about earlier, to bring into the fold. And we can kind of just let the conversation go where it may from here on out. So if we have things that we do make sure that we want to make sure we address throughout the call, interrupt, bring them up, make sure we do. I don't know that I personally do, besides the small list that we came up with of current stuff that's going on and conversations around them. But yeah, I guess the first one to kind of jump into is we just got Pomelo results, and KYC is going to start, sounds like on Monday. Emails should be going out. There was a blog post. I think it was a blog post. It was early this morning.
Yeah.
some cool interactive graphs that you can kind of check the donations and how they flowed between people. That was kind of cool. They talked about the one, or I think maybe two projects that got disqualified, as well as some of the donations that they somehow didn't match. I don't know. Did anybody read that? Understand that part better?
I can comment on that.
Go for it.
So some projects, so on December 1st, there were the numbers, okay, how much did you raise? How much match did you get on December 1st? But Pomelo has been doing an analysis since then, and they have reduced some projects allocation and increased other projects allocation based on evidence of collusion from donors. So that's one donor essentially transferring EOS to multiple accounts that they also own, and then those accounts donating to a Pomelo grant. And I do want to address, because EOS Bees was one of the projects that got reduced, and I reached out to Daniel. He sent me some more information, and so it turns out that there were three groups or three entities that was one person that was multiple people, and so it got collapsed into one. And so two out of the three groups we didn't know. So obviously, like, we can't control this. One of the groups was us. So it was one of the hives. And so what happened there was earlier in the month. So, we do allocations on the first of the month. So on November 1st, the Treasury allocates the princess bees, which allocates to the worker bees and the scout bees. And one of the hives, their scout bees use those funds to donate to our grant. And a few days after the grant, I'm telling the princess bees, we shouldn't be donating to our grant. And some things get lost in translation. And it just happens that one of our hives, not the best English, it's tough. It's not the best English out of the other hives, this one hive that I'm referring to. And so it's just really a learning experience. They know now. And so, no hard feelings. It's just the nature of the algorithm has certain incentives. It promotes certain behavior. And we just need to, the more we have Pomelo, the more we learn what behaviors that we need to do to have the fair system for all. So I'm really, I'm very happy with the results. I'm glad that Pomelo took the time to figure out what should be collapsed into one. And I'm just really thankful and grateful for Pomelo and the opportunities that we all get from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had brought that up with them at one point, in that, like, you're not, as a project proposer, there's the possibility that you don't know that this stuff is going on, and that people with the best of intentions may be somehow manipulating the system. So it's great that they're doing this level of depth research into what happened after a season, and then being able to adjust and account for it and explain it like they are right now. This crazy fractal looking graph craziness they have going on, you can actually go and it's interactive, and that part is a picture, but some cool stuff that you can possibly dig into and learn more about, like how the community engaged with all this stuff. So I'm impressed. I'm excited that season 2 is coming up, and it seems like it was a very successful season.
Yeah, EOS Detective is a really awesome tool.
Yeah, it really is.
He's meant to be. Oh, don't worry. Don't worry. I had a dumb question. All good.
It's all good. So yeah,
Oh,
I think
they use Kumo. That's that's a great platform.
I had never heard of it before today.
Probably because it's dangerous and you get addicted to like looking at relationships between everything. And
That's cool. It's our tiny universe of season 1 donations. So
the epic.
yeah,
The Hu-Fi one is pretty interesting. That they really dug into. Like that's I want offering 2 EOS for every 1 EOS donated.
it's bold.
That's it's bold. Yeah. I mean, it's got to be a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
So Maurice Venegas, he addressed it in a interview with Nova Crypto. He said that he did not read the instructions, and then when he finally did, it was too late, and he, accepted the disqualification.
Yeah, okay. That would make sense because it's so obvious, kind of. He was publicly advertising it.
Right.
So
He didn't try to hide it. He didn't know.
Right.
that's where, that makes sense.
And I mean, to be blunt, that's kind of how a lot of the ecosystem operates right now, with votes and VPs and paying people, and like I realize we're shifting directions on the network a little bit to try to create these human elements and to try to create fairness through things like Eden and through things like Pomelo. So this is a departure from a lot of how it's operated. Maurice is his name. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So his name is Maurice Venegas. He is the EOS microloan guy.
Yeah, and he's a BP too, right?
Correct.
So I'm sure he relatively, I don't want to say new to the ecosystem, but new to being kind of a player in the ecosystem, in like, we're going to try to be involved in every aspect we can possibly be in. And for somebody who, I mean, I say new, and I honestly don't know that. I may have started interacting with him or seeing him within the last, like sometime last year, maybe. But it's understandable. And it was very, it was good that he's like, yeah, I screwed up. I'm sorry. Like we're disqualified for this season. We'll try again next season. Like that was a very graceful way to handle it. So I was happy to see that response as it all played out in real time.
Well, it was kind of just like crazy looking back. So what we got collapsed, it was 19 unique donors collapsed into 3, and that represented almost $1,500 from 19 to 3. I mean, it's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
Just like the nature of this algo it's kind of mind blowing.
Yeah. And I think if we had more, like as this system gets bigger and the pie gets sliced up smaller, like that'll probably become less impactful, as we're working on it. But for season 1, I bet you that's probably the biggest impact it could have had, because it's still a new system. And as season 2 comes up and they're touting how, hey, look, season 1 was a good success, which it looks to be. Hopefully we'll have more engagement on season 2. I really hope we can pull like Telos and Wax and FIO developers and all these other chains potentially into Pomelo as a system to use, because it's like, there's no reason this has to be all EOS based. It runs on EOS, but come pitch your projects here if they're public goods. The public goods cross between those sectors so heavily that let's open the doors. Let's encourage that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there was a Telos project, Haifa, and I think maybe a couple others.
Yeah. And I feel like I read their pitch and it mentioned EOS specifically a couple times. And I was like, oh, they're trying to cater to this other audience. And if they didn't even do that, I still would have donated to that specific project, because I see the value in that. So maybe the culture can change a little bit, that it's like, it's okay if you're operating on these other chains, as long as you're producing public goods that are available to all, regardless of where it's running today. So
I'll definitely make a push to try to use the voice I have in the Telos community now to encourage Telos-based projects to participate in Pomelo.
yeah,
Because it's tight. Hey, do you guys know, I'm just reading a tweet from EOS Costa Rica, and it says their Eden on EOS supported intern has started working on our developer guides. Do you guys know anything about that? Eden, I'm trying to figure out the Eden on EOS supported part, unless that's level 1 funding. It doesn't sound familiar to anybody here. Okay.
it must have been.
Yeah, so they pitched that in the Eden election. Edgar, I believe that was his thing in Eden, that he was going to hire an intern.
Ah, okay. And he made it to level 1. Okay, that makes sense. Cool.
Cool. We need a lot more of that. Awesome. Any other Pomelo thoughts?
No, I just think ES Nation have done a really good job. I think Daniel Keys especially has been nice and transparent, and then again, quite understanding of the hiccups that we've experienced again with Jesse explaining what happened with ESBs and keys and stuff being responsive to that. They could have easily said, nah, screw you. You've corrupted the system. We're just going to kick you entirely, kind of thing. Like I'm sure many other parties might have gone down that route. So it's good that EOS Nation's been so sort of understanding around that area.
Yeah, agreed. They've done a good job managing it. I'm sure that meow was loud and clear because my mic was not muted. Did that not come through?
No, I didn't.
Oh man, it was really loud and I reacted and turned around. I thought you guys for sure all heard that. I was like, oh great.
It should be loud. Your cat's the size of a full-grown lion, so.
It is. It's an old fart, but good lab cat. Cool. Yeah, excited to see. Does anybody know when the next season is we should expect roughly? Did they talk about that?
They
No?
did not.
All right. Maybe soon. Who knows? I guess we'll have to
I'm-
see. Maybe February
I'm
or
muted, but
something.
I guess, but it was alluded to in the fireside chat. Something I thought they said March, but I could be mistaken.
Okay. That's not bad
Um,
either.
So we'll see. I guess is the best answer for
Cool.
the moment.
All right. Next
So
topic. Yeah.
Dan's been firing off some interesting things in Telegram lately. I'll say I just bring this up so I can watch John's face contort in all different ways. Let me see if I can figure out which. I did manage to kind of get it together here. Hold on, that's gross miscalculation on my part. There it is. Can you just see the thing or my whole screen?
Mhm. Your whole screen.
Oh well.
Seen
There's
it all.
nothing. There's nothing too illegal on the screen. We'll start here. I thought this was interesting. Back and forth in the EOS Telegram. Fair enough. Everything I've proposed is part of a specific grander vision and user experience. When Dan starts talking about a grander vision and user experience, my ears perk up. And then let's see here. Yeah, and then it was this. This guy says, let it be revolutionary. Let it be an answer for why world will run on EOS. Let it be mainstream. That's my goal. Well, this is the best teaser we had, I think, in leading up to the white papers anyway.
So
Any,
like with these names, this is what I was trying to figure out. Like, because I saw a couple comments of, of all the problems we have, why are we worrying about this? It seems like not really the biggest problems that EOS has. But I'm wondering, it seems to me that this probably fits pretty closely in with the future Eden 2.0. Like there must be something to do with the naming and the names that are going to help facilitate that. Does that
I would
sound,
imagine.
that sound fair?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think anything Dan's doing right now is arbitrary. And yeah, it's interesting to watch people in the EOS Telegram be like, why are you working on this? You should be working on that instead. It's like, well, I mean,
I would say,
we've
yeah,
got-
the biggest thing about it is again. Sorry, I don't know if you heard that, but anyway, biggest thing is about it is creating an experience where the user doesn't even know that you're using a blockchain, right? And if you go on Twitter, you can have any username you want. Whereas if you go on a dApp that's built on EOS, and you put in 6 is your favorite number, and you always have 6 in your username for it, and then you try to put in 6, and then it doesn't work because it's going to be from 1 to 5 kind of thing, and it can't be over 12 characters and all that other crap. It's not the best of user experiences. So I think if a name system like that was introduced, suddenly you can have longer names. It's not that big of a deal. It's not the end of the world if you want 9 in your username kind of thing. So
you can keep your old name.
Yeah.
And he did in that same chat confirm, I think, or it seemed like a confirmation of the @ symbol, like user account names would be like @ your account name, more like a Twitter style handle. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I was more focused on the allocation of names. I could just tell you from my, since I started EOS from the ICO, names weren't a big thing. But now since I'm doing EOS Bs, with the auction system there is now, and we have relatively a very small treasury, I've already resigned. I'm not going to get .b. There's no way. I just don't I have no confidence in the current system. I'm not even going to try. So I would like a different system. So there are people out there I've seen that are, Dan, why are you talking about this? Not a problem. I think it's a problem. And so I support Dan looking into this.
Yeah, well, again, the new bidding system proposed, I think it'll be a much better experience. Again, you basically presented this is a price of a name right now, and then you can essentially just go through and buy it. You don't have to wait potentially weeks or whatever for an auction to end, which is pretty cool.
Well, for something like B, you would, because it's so short, at least based on what was proposed. It seemed like there was tiers for length, which
what was proposed was a relaxed, what did he call it? A allocation rate. So now it's 1 per day right now. And so I think it was proposed 1 per hour, I think was the last one proposed. You still have to outbid everyone, but it's
not for 3 character ones though.
I think that was for 6 characters or 5
so what is
characters
it
or
for
more.
3 character?
I thought
think
that
it's-
was weekly or something.
I think it's still a week, yeah, or 4 days or something like that. It was definitely multiple days.
There was some level of complexity based on length. So if you want something short, it was the bar was higher. I guess that is the concept of it all. But names are also not going to be the same thing in this new system. I agree with your point that the current auction system we have is bad. It took, for us to get GM, it took us 3 months during our account creation development cycle of just we put a bid in and then nothing happened for months. And
what
then
was the final bid?
We got it for 90 EOS or something. It wasn't terrible, but we had to
Wow.
wait for everybody to stop bidding on things that were higher. So it's a bad system to get premium names. That's absolutely true. This new system, though, as it's being presented, though, if you follow the developers chat, there's a number of issues with it. They're not actually going to be account names. They're essentially just display names. And if you were withdrawing from an exchange or sending tokens to another user, you're still going to use whatever your account name is, not whatever this new system proposes. So there's
Well,
giant
under
hole
the
in
hood
that.
you would, but in term, like, you know, in theory, UIs, you know, like the wallet, you know, like gray mass is essentially would, you know, perform that lookup. So you put in
Dan's
some,
app too.
yeah, you put in one's display name, and then behind the scenes it resolves the actual EOS account and goes to that.
But you can't do that right now. That's not possible to do in a trusted environment. And that's where the developers chat goes, is that EOS has an underlying trust problem with APIs, in that you cannot trust what you are reading from an API. So you can't do lookups like that. You can't
Isn't this-
enter a long name and then have it resolve to an actual account name that a contract will then use.
Isn't this what the registry attempts to solve?
No,
No.
no, the registry is kind of the system for it. There's
So-
also some really long conversations from people like Aaron Haggerty and Matthew, I forget his last name right now, in the developers channel that talk in great depth about what would need to change for API results to be trustable. So you could do a lookup, like you could say, like Jesse, if you got B, like the B name on this new system, you couldn't type that into a wallet and have it resolve to the actual account name. Like that we just can't trust that right now. If you did trust that right now and you were using my APIs, I could just return you fake results and then have you send tokens to the wrong place. Like,
That wouldn't be
it
very
isn't.
nice, Aaron.
No, I mean, well, that's why, like, that's just to highlight why you can't trust the APIs right now.
Yeah.
So there is an underlying major problem with the trustability of APIs that's going to require a really, really Herculean effort involving like the rebuilding of wallets and the rebuilding of APIs, and something like this name system needs those things to be done before it's even feasible. So there are big hurdles in the way of a name system like that actually being functional. And that, from my perspective, that's why I was pushing back on like, why are you proposing this now if it's not even feasible?
Is the trust problem in APIs just a lack of independent entities offering API services?
No.
It is an API and Oracle, like synonymous terms, or are those not? Because it seemed like they serve a similar function based on how you're describing it.
Maybe that's an interesting.
I would. Is it an Oracle more one that enters external, you know, real world data into a contract and puts it on the chain?
It's like exogenous data. Yeah, exactly. Outside.
Yeah,
of
it depends. Yeah, exactly what your definition of Oracle is, but probably
Not in the blockchain sense, yeah. But in a sense that you could query, like, let's say you were doing a name lookup and you're like, I want to figure out, like, Jesse owns bees in this new system, but the real account name on the blockchain is like Bob. I don't know, it's something else. You could query like 20 APIs and say, what does bees resolve to? And if they all respond with Bob, then yeah, like they kind of act as oracles in that sense. But now your phone's doing 20 API calls to different servers with different stability levels, and like it's kind of a mess.
And what's your threshold for failure? And then if you're calling so many, you're going to get bad data and like just connections. So it'll always fail almost if you do that.
Yeah.
Are other chains have more trusted APIs?
No, this is true of all EOS.io APIs and of all.
Well, yeah,
maybe of all blockchains.
You have to trust current APIs to a certain extent, you know, already, because otherwise I could say, you know, Aaron, I'll buy your car off you, and then, you know, I transfer you 50,000 EOS or, you know, whatever it is. You know, if I've got a corrupted API, I can just give you a fake, you know, looking transaction, you know, that appears that you've now got 50,000, you know, EOS balance in your account, and now I get to, you know, drive away with your car, and that transaction never happened. And again, that same thing happens with, you know, every blockchain. So to a certain extent, yeah, there's trusts that you have to place in an API now. But yeah, I guess with this new, you know, new proposal, if the wallet has to look up the actual EOS account upon everything, there's a little more trust that has to be placed into it. And yeah, I guess even with the, you know, further API calls to sort of different sources, yeah, it's I don't know.
Messy.
Again, there's no solutions there. It's just trade-offs.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see.
But then, you know, it is a decentralized network, right? So making calls to decentralized parties want to, rather than, one thing is inherently, more decentralized there. Why should you get all your data from one source and call it decentralized? Because it's already centralized if you go into the one source.
Yeah. I mean, but I think in this situation, it's actually where it begins to matter, because if you input B, you have to trust that Bob comes back accurately. If you're just querying for your balance, or if a transaction was successful, or like, that's a different kind of trust. The level of trust that your app is actually doing what you're asking it to do because you're trying to send somebody money, like, you have to trust that. This is not an area where we can compromise. There shouldn't be a trustless conversion happening right there of B to Bob. Like that, we can't compromise there. We can't move away from that. I mean, we open it up man-in-the-middle attacks and everything else. It's just, when you enter an account name and you submit a transaction, it's going to that account because you signed that account, and there's no trust there. Like, that's how we operate in this environment today. And extending the account name system to add a couple more characters into account names and sacrificing trust, like, that makes my brain hurt. Like, I get the motive is good and the solution is not.
So is it a fair summary that Dan came out with this proposal and then there was some pushback from various quarters among developers that Dan has taken, and y'all are putting your heads together to try and find it? It's probably causing the API Plus team to just like lose their minds right now.
I'd still say though, but like, and again, I think Dan even said, like, once you look up that data, then it's immutable as well. Like, the matching doesn't change. So like, how many more accounts do you introduce into your destination in your wallet as well? Like, the lookup only has to be verified once. So if I'm putting in a brand new account, it can go to 4 API nodes or whatever. They all say yes, it's good. It matches to this. That lookup never has to happen again. Technically, locally anyway.
And then whose responsibility is to store it? Are there SDKs that support this? Are there SDKs that make this easier for developers?
If it's a wallet, if it's a wallet that's doing it, then again, the wallet can just store the data however it sees fit. Although I guess one danger is just the discipline of actually doing that practice. Like, but again, that's what you get for using a crappy wallet that isn't maintained properly. But yeah, it creates more room for error for wallet maintainers should they fail to put in that kind of practice.
So yeah, I mean,
could you have the API nodes like sign the message that they send back upon that lookup?
Potentially, that would help alleviate man-in-the-middle type stuff.
Yeah,
there's been conversations around that idea.
If you did that, but then you should also have some sort of like built-in reporting thing. Like, there should be really, like, basically, you send 5 separate requests to 5 different API nodes, and if one comes back like corrupted and it's signed, like, that should get broadcasted, and then that should be proved to every other wallet out there. Fucking like blacklist that node, don't talk to it. Kill it.
That's a whole system of governance, though, that would need like an oversight body and checks and reporting, and like, it's like you'd need like transparency reports around that, and that's a big system to ask for just to add some more characters on top of your account name.
It's but it's not just that. Again, the basics, like, people aren't going to stand why they can't have a 6 or a 9 and their name. Like, to them, like, to the average Joe, that sounds pretty stupid.
As a wallet developer that's interacted with thousands of users supporting them, never once has anybody come back to me and said, why can't I put a 6 in my account name? Like, that's not what users care about right now.
Well,
they do ask why it has to be 12 characters.
On EOS?
across all EOS IO chains. Like this is
Yeah.
like if we were playing whatever that game is where you guess the words and they have scores, Family Feud, it would be like the last answer. This would be the last answer.
What is missing from the EOS IO ecosystem?
It does seem
I have
like
6 in my username.
it does seem like a little bit like selection bias would be entering into that survey though,
Yeah.
because the only people you're really hearing from are people that were already brave enough to get as far as
To
they
reach
did,
out.
which is a pretty rare type of people to begin with.
Like,
It's
the most
true.
average Joe people are still going to Ethereum because again, that's got the biggest, popularity. Like for them to even find and, go into the EOS, network, they're going full, further down the blockchain, rabbit hole, I would argue.
I mean, most average Joe people aren't even going to crypto. Like,
Yeah.
we're like 0.01% of the user population using crypto probably. So
Well, and it's
no one's really cracked that yet, to my knowledge.
Like already, like I just went on Twitter and Dallas Rushing, his handle is Dallas I Rushing, and that's 14 characters. So bam, like immediately, sorry, you can't have that handle on EOS. You got to pick someone else. Like, I don't know.
I think we'd have more luck performing a hard fork and just changing the number type behind account name to have more space. Like, yeah, it's going to require a lot of work, but it's probably a lot less work than what's being proposed in this proposal.
Well, I guess that shifts the work from like it's like layers A. So you got like the core of EOS, which is where all the crazy, stuff happens, where you need, good C++ developers to make those moves. And then on the outer layer, you've got, Aaron on Greymass doing that. So if that were the case, it'd be less for the external parties like exchanges and wallet people and more on the internal, the blockchain A, like such a change.
I'm just the vocal one out of, I don't know. I mean, you have to consider all the developers of Token Pocket and Trust Wallet and all of these not specific EOS products, all the exchanges, all the applications, all the SDKs, all the libraries. Like, it will be much less effort to address this at the core level and then just have API operators replay the blockchain to some extent than to actually extend the system and then trust the APIs. I don't know. If we're looking to reduce friction and like Jesse's use case, like he wants B or Bs or something like that. If it's not taken right now, why don't we just ditch the auction system and let anybody register anything that they want? Like, screw it. The name system sucks. Let's get rid of it. Let's remove the 12 character restriction and let's just let anybody register any 1 to 12 character name that they want. Like,
what about
we just
squatting?
solved. Who cares? You can squat on a Twitter handle.
Yeah, but
Or at least relax the rate at the very least.
Make it so that for anything less than 3 characters, you have to
More than 3
bid
characters.
on. Yeah. Well, and then anything with more than 3, you could just get for free. Like, that would be such a big win with no effort except a system contract upgrade that said, like, you don't have to bid on anything except this range of names.
That would protect the 4 character ones too. Honestly, I think they're being. Dan's system weirdly does not value 4 character names, but there's tons of them that are really valuable. So
yeah, and I mean, people want to squat like that. We're trying to stop people from squatting on names, but we're hurting the user experience.
Right.
So I'd rather stop hurting the user experience and let the squatters squat. Like, it's the same with domain names, the same with email addresses, Twitter handles, whatever these unique identifiers are. Squatting happens everywhere. Nobody's got a good solution for it. We have a bad solution for it that makes the UX suffer. Let's just ditch it all.
What about the dynamic pricing algorithm though, like the Bitcoin proof of work one?
I don't care. Just open it up.
Yeah,
selling names is.
Yeah, but I think opening up is now going, too much the other way. But if you had the Bitcoin inspired algo for pricing,
maybe
like,
just that to replace the currently failing bid system that was like going up to like 10,000 EOS the other week with some bot bidding or something. I don't know what was going on.
It's still like 10,000 EOS. What happens to that? Does that go to
Goes
Rex
to the
or-
Rex holders. Yeah. I mean,
Well, it's
cool.
still a win. Like,
It is a
it's
win.
annoying, but it's a win there.
But it's blocking people like Jesse from being able to get a name.
Yeah. Well,
It's a bad system.
yeah. Well, it depends how you want to measure it. No, it's good. It's a good system for Rex. I would say.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I'd say
Expensive.
Yeah, because
everyone.
Rex holders are getting rich right now.
Right?
But
When they
I'll
get
still
there.
say that I think the proof of work one, you know, from what I see, would be a good compromise between like speed, and still having
Yeah.
dynamic pricing that reflects, you know, actual demand
Yeah.
and supply kind of thing.
Does
Yeah,
this
I
need to be-
also, so Dan
uh,
came out with, I think, like 3 articles recently about
Mhm.
names. And the one with
Yeah.
the Bitcoin, the one that John's referencing, I also align most with that one.
It'd be a better system than what we have now, where each bid makes it sit there for 24 hours and then somebody bids in the last minute and another 24 hours gets added on.
Yep,
Like
it's painful.
you have to be really dedicated to get a name. Or lucky. I guess maybe that's another way to do it. But
I mean,
would-
I
It's
see
like
value in
extremely
restricting.
dedicated now. Let's just turn it down to just very dedicated instead of extremely dedicated.
which
Yeah.
maybe this proof of work type approach would do. As long as it doesn't come along with let's ditch account names and use some new system that we can't trust.
Is there a easy way to summarize the proof of work method that you're referring to?
Yeah, so it's basically inspired off like the difficulty setting of Bitcoin. So you know how Bitcoin has a target block time of like 10 minutes. And so say if block producers or, you know, miners start making blocks every 7 minutes, right? You know, that they got new computers, they're faster, whatever. So they're making blocks every 7 minutes. So after a while, the algorithm would change and the difficulty would go higher in
Right.
order for them to be able to, you know, credit on the block. And so that adjusted, you know, target to 10-minute block time. So, you know, no more, no less. So that's its, you know, target. So with this system, basically, same thing. Say we have a target of 24 names in a day, or forget now, but yeah, so say it's like 24 names in a day. If we're now, you know, people are buying 40 names in a day, after 24 hours or you know, 24 of the latest bids, whichever comes first, it will adjust the price. Yeah, so the price gets adjusted every 24 purchases or every 24 hours, whichever comes first. And so the idea is what we'll do is like set the price pretty high initially, and then, you know, people want to buy at that price, they can. But then, you know, if no one's, you know, taking it, it's too high, eventually the price will come down until, you know, the market's, you know, happy to trade on that price, and then it'll go from there. And so the experience will be essentially the UI can, you know, pretty accurately say, you know, what the price will be, and then you just hit buy, and then you can, you know, either get your name right there or go into another auction or whatever. But yeah, that's the concept of it.
Cool. Good summary.
The problem, like if people actually want a custom name and they're like brand new user, any blockchain, they're like, I'd like a custom name. They don't want to wait any amount of time. They just want to be able to pick it and start going.
If it's available. Yeah.
That's the problem with the current premium name system is that you've already got to have an account to participate. Like your account needs to exist on the blockchain, like with funds in it already. You've already picked an account name. Before then you can bid on an account. Like it's fundamentally the idea of using the blockchain to sell names doesn't work well because people just want to get started now. That's why we bought the GM premium name and we just give it away. Like, well, we don't give the account away, but we don't like upsell necessarily. It's like just pick a name and go. Like if you want to be www.gm, like sure, do it. Here you go. You're starting right now. It's that immediacy, and this current, like even the new proposal kind of misses the mark on that. It's these aren't going to be people signing up today that want to bid on accounts because they don't want to wait. It's going to be people like me with apps. So
Yeah, I think that's what it's meant for. Like what you just described with GM, you're gonna have like the EOS name service that Rob Finch built, and I think sold to EOS Nation.
yeah.
Like they're gonna be the ones bidding, and then the users, the new users are not gonna be bidding. The new users are gonna come and pick whatever name, and they'll get it right away.
Yeah. And I guess my stance at this point is like, let's just stop doing that altogether. As a developer who has bought one, I'd rather not have bought one. I'd rather just let people pick account names. Like that's what Proton actually does. You can just on Proton, when you create an account, you can make your account anything you want. There's no limitations. Like I think I might have registered like Gray Mass as an account name, and I just literally created it. That was I don't know if I did or not. If you look it up, I can't guarantee it's actually me, but it works. And those users are able just to pick their Twitter handles essentially and move on. And it doesn't require any major system changes. It's an elegant solution that we should adopt instead of creating this really complex system of bidding and all this other stuff for people like me to bid on, to then give the ease to the users. Like that. Why did I have to pay for a premium account to make it easy for my users?
And I guess
because you're a business.
I guess if we're
my business
being pro free market here, then along with what you're saying, Aaron, we should just let people pick whatever name they want, and then just make sure we have robust secondary markets that allow people to resell names. You know,
that
like,
would be my opinion.
And then take a percentage and give it back to EOS users, you know, or give it back to the network, you know, like kind of like with NFTs, you know.
Yeah, I'm all about just removing complexity at this point as everything I do. So I don't want to see overly complicated thing. Yeah.
That's a good design philosophy, yeah.
And sometimes we need complicated things. But in this instance, I don't. Maybe there's some benefit that I don't realize yet, and maybe that'll become clear and I will change my mind. I'm not a stone that has a fixed opinion.
Well, if the proof of work system came out and it was just, you know, buy it now, as soon as you put in your bid, you get the name, would you be a fan of that, Aaron?
I think it's a good compromise.
It might be, but it's still like how, again, the user is going to need to have an account in order to be able to buy that name. Like there's no way around that. If it's a system contract, in order to interact with the system contract, you have to have an account. So we're asking users to buy an account or get an account and set it up, private keys, whatever. And then we're asking them to create another account.
Like can you have
to the end user?
Or
I don't think I just think that's unrealistic. I don't think the end user is going to go that next step.
No, not to get the name they want. They should just type it in. Like, just give them the name.
No, I see where you're coming from. I totally get it.
It's a cool solution. Like using the proof of work for Bitcoin, like that's cool. It's just, I don't think it applies here.
You also got to like think about every past person that's actually paid a lot of money for that name. Like if you just went open season, you'd be like, yeah, that thing you spent a few grand on, it's now
whatever,
virtually free.
Here's the thing is that we could keep the subnaming system. Like Graymass owns the .gm, right? Nobody can create a something.gm besides me with those keys. This system doesn't remove that. There is still some value to that. Like maybe somebody took Aaron as an account name. I can offer Aaron.gm. Sorry, cat moving.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening. Sorry, that was. So yeah, that subsystem still exists. That if you own one of those short names, then you still have this whole prefix naming solution that you can use. There's still value there. I don't know. when maybe they get refunded. I don't know. I don't make those decisions. But that could be put up to the network. That's like, okay, now that we're ditching this, let's just like pull into some fund and pay everybody back that's ever bought an account. But then again, that's complex because who knows if those people are still around? Maybe their account got hacked. Like, are we just throwing money away?
As somebody who, totally overpaid for a 7-letter name, I don't really care at this point.
Yeah.
Like I'd be happy if the network just wins and has like cheap or free account names for everybody, and we could actually onboard people. I really don't care. I mean, I'm just me, but
yeah.
I mean, I've never paid for a name. Like Grey Mask gave me a name, EOS Nation gave me a name, and then I got the name from the ICO. Like I never paid for a name.
Do you remember your ICO name by heart?
Yeah, of course.
Nice. It's like, hey,
like tattooed in my brain.
Oh, yeah. What is it? What is it, Jesse? It starts with GMT, doesn't it? Or GMZ, GM, something like that.
And so it's like, hey.
No, it doesn't.
HEY.
Well, I didn't expect us to go so far down the rabbit hole, but that was enlightening.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. I mean, probably people watching get more than they bargained for, but now we can pitch this as like the deep dive into names and Aaron's contrary opinion.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I love it.
I apologize.
We need people like you that can provide like informed sort of disagreement about certain things, because I certainly can't.
And he's not the only one. They did a Telegram call, and there were a couple of people on that call that were also passionately disagreeing with the proposal.
And that's okay. I
mean, it's all fine and good to have people passionately disagreeing, but how many of them actually in that call? I mean, I don't know. I wasn't on the call, so I can't say, but I see a lot of armchair, activity with people having opinions about architecture that's a little bit beyond their pay grade, probably. Like, personally, I can't. I'm not qualified to comment, really. I can just marvel, but I appreciate that that there are differences of opinion, and that there are people expressing trade-offs and stuff, because without that, we're going to just make bad decisions if we just storm ahead with one supposedly great solution and then ignore a lot of the consequences of that.
I think we should welcome that. Like, we all make mistakes, or it's not even a mistake. It's just like something that hasn't been thought of from all perspectives. And then you get the other perspectives and you're like, okay, maybe that wasn't the best idea. I do this constantly. And it's like, okay, you're right. And maybe I'll take this back and think about it a little bit more and see if there is a way to move forward. But it's not like, sometimes I feel like I'm attacking people, but I'm not. I am just trying to, like, this is what I want people to do to my ideas. And this is what's going to happen when these papers come out, is people are going to start shredding them. And that's the point. It's to figure out what's wrong and let's make it better. Like, that's how this system is going to evolve and get better overall, is if we all can take this sort of feedback in and recognize bad ideas.
It's almost like science or something.
Right? Almost.
Yeah, it seems a lot like that.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, this is hashing up all the crap from last year, but it's the inability to admit that something isn't working, and that's something, I hate using the word wrong because it's so offensive, but that you were wrong about something specific, and admitting that, so that way you can move forward to whatever's right. And that's really, really subjective, and you could pick those words apart and make better words, but yeah. So,
but this isn't a master class on nonviolent communication, so we totally get what you're saying. I mean, there are solutions that are, in one context would be great, and in another context would be like absolutely horrible. So
yeah,
it's a lot of depends on context.
And this is probably not the venue for us to deep dive into this like technical stuff, about account creation and how we could improve the system. But out of the few things I've said in our call today, like if somebody can point out fundamental reasons as to why we shouldn't do that, like I really want to know, because otherwise I'm going to continue to think like this would really help. And I need that critical eye that says, no, this is why it won't work. And we need to be able to do that throughout the entire ecosystem in a respectful way and refine solutions so we can actually solve problems.
Here,
So,
here.
Yeah.
That may be a good note to wrap it up on. Unless
Done with
Randall
that.
wants to have the closing thoughts. Randall's just
Right.
like
Randall's been
kind of
quiet.
here, kind of not here. Oh, there he is. What are you doing off screen, Randall?
Yeah, I just had a couple of papers to sign and other things, so I was just trying to catch up on them. Yeah, it has been a long week, so
You look tired.
yeah, I'm exhausted.
Don't
Yeah,
get too
me
tired
too.
or you get sick like me. You gotta stop just shy of that point where you fall off the cliff.
Yeah. Trying the best that we can to take it easy, you know?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that was super enlightening from my vantage point. Hopefully it'll spur some additional conversation and
Yeah, it was a good one.
yeah.
Thanks for
But-
bringing it up. That wasn't on my, you said Dan comments and I was like, oh, I wonder where we're going with this. And turns out it's something I've been engaged with for the past couple days.
Yeah, it really hit a nerve. Just kidding.
Yeah, well, again, like I ran at Eden for onboarding. I've been working on wallets for 5 years. Like I'm passionate about this topic. So comes with the
Well-
territory. And I apologize again for diving us down this rabbit hole so deeply, because this probably isn't the venue for this, but maybe it is. Maybe it is.
And I just want to say to Eve that this is the first chief delegate call. I have not eaten anything. So this is
Ooh.
the first one out of all 13. So lucky
Historic.
number 13, I guess.
Time to eat then.
Eve had, we had a private call with Eve one time and he had commented that I was eating on every call. So.
And then I got busted eating crunchy crackers on the fireside chat. So you're not alone.
We're all just here 24/7 and we got to eat some point.
Right.
Yeah. I just like got to
Sign
figure
it.
out how to do the push to talk thing.
Right.
I feel like this keeps coming up for me, and I don't know, it seems relevant to the conversation we just had when I was jokingly saying it's almost like science. I'm going to really quickly read the 4 Mertonian norms of science, very short. The first one is communism, which don't take that the wrong way. All scientists should have common ownership of scientific goods, intellectual property, to promote collective collaboration. Secrecy is the opposite of this norm. Universalism. Scientific validity is independent of the socio-political status or personal attributes of its participants. So check your status at the door. Disinterestedness. Scientific institutions act for the benefit of a common scientific enterprise rather than for the personal gain of individuals within them. And and today you're exemplifying the both in methodology and institutional codes of conduct.
I don't know if I've ever heard those.
Anybody who's getting
So,
involved in vaccine discussions.
that brings up a good point, Brandon, in that sometimes where we through the information or where we start the conversation is very important, right? So you can't start a physician conversation at the electrician shop. Okay, it makes no sense to do that, even though you're trying to get some take or input, right? If you start in the electrician shop, they don't understand you, so you are going to panic. You're going to make the people panic. So I think where we start the conversation should be very important, right? You want to start with your peers, and your peers can have a great discussion with you and give you good input. and take, because sometimes they've been also they've been thinking about the same thing, right? So they can give you some knowledge, and sometimes it will help trigger something. And then after all of that, that's when you try to get those who are very well spoken to polish it, to put it into a platform where those who are not experts on that topic can debate on it, because now there are people who understand it that can explain it a little bit better for those who are not experts on the field, right? So that's one thing that I noticed, like this week, we had like discussions like that where a conversation just starts and everybody starts going crazy, right? Instead of it being started at the right place. And right now we have the right place, right? We have working groups, we have experts at each group. So the conversation can start there and it can make a way into the community as a mainstream, so that people are not frustrated, so that ideas that are already being talked about is not thrown under the carpet or in the garbage, because then people feel like, okay, why am I doing this and why not? So I think for those who are listening, that's something that we should take it very, very seriously, especially if we are really thinking about building a product that works, right? Because the process is the most important thing. You can be a genius, but if you don't structure your things well, you will always fail, all right? I always say that if you are a great guy, you look good, but you don't know how to communicate with your wife, and your wife always finds out that you are doing something when they go outside, trust me, you're gonna have a divorce. I promise you that, right? So the conversation, the process, how you do things has to always be in alignment with your the people that you are in relationships with, so that they can understand you, they can reason with you, and they can comment on things that they feel like, okay, maybe they can comment on, and it's not going to be a problem. So that's something that I think we should all be aware of, and work on it so that we can build the community as a whole.
Hear, hear.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyone else have any final thoughts? Besides, I'm really tired and I want to go home.
No, I think that's a really good observation. And I saw people in Telegram over the past week or so that have said kind of the same thing, and may have been frustrated that there was back and forth dialogue, like for and against ideas. And they're like, why is this happening? And we're turned off by it. It's like, because that might not have been the place for that conversation, but it's where the conversation was happening. So it's a very good way to put it.
Yep. Kind of gets back to the means justifying themselves and not the ends justifying the means. All right. Well, with that, we'll see y'all next week, and hope this has been enlightening.
Talk soon.
Sweet.
Go EOS.
Oh, yes.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.
Later.